Welcome to Storytime with Cozy Melka, where we gather to share tales about responsibility, courage, and honesty. As we come together, let's put on our listening ears as we're transported into amazing stories. For this episode, we'll be learning about bravery versus injustice as we continue our tale about the clever rogue, Robin Hood and his merry men. So without further ado, let's find a cozy spot, grab a friend, and let's enjoy a great story. Chapter 11, Abbot Hugo Pays Tribute. Though Isambard de Bellamy was content to bide his time rather than attack Robin Hood at once, Abbot Hugo was in no such mind. He knew that Marian, when she came of age the next year, would be able to dispose of her lands and wealth as she would, and he had no mind to lose control of such an inheritance. One morning, attended only by a couple of friars, he set out early from St. Mary's to go to Nottingham and see what his brother the sheriff, Robert de Renault, could do to help him. Usually when he traveled, Abbot Hugo went in great state, with retainers of the abbey to guard him and a score of his monks to attend his journey, but matters had come to such pass along the rough tracks of the country road that he was afraid, if he went with any show at all, that Robin Hood would attack him. So he sneaked away while the day was young, hoping that Robin's scouts would fail to see him. But each of his friars bore, tied under his girdle, a great bag of gold marks with which to pay the men whom Abbot Hugo hoped to borrow from his brother the sheriff for hunting down Robin Hood and his band. The forest glades looked fair and silent enough as the three of them, mounted on stout mules, rode from Nottingham, and Abbot Hugo, feeling that, with the sheriff's aid, he could make an end of this outlaw, was in good humor. He joked and talked with his two attendants as mile after mile passed, his spirits rising as they drew near the end of their journey. "Another hour," he said, "and I shall be able to rest with my good brother. These rough beasts make the bones ache." "Aye, Lord Abbot," said Friar Anselm, "and a flagon of good Robert de Renault's wine will be right welcome after such a ride." He had barely spoken when his rein was seized by a man who darted out from the forest shades, and a dozen more surrounded the party. "Saints preserve us! 'Tis those fierce outlaws," the abbot explained. "Hold, fellows, we be of Holy Church, we three." "Then is Holy Church so much the worse off, for three such scandalous villains never disgraced her before," said Robin Hood, stepping out from behind a tree. "Pull me that fat abbot off his mule, Will Scarlet, and let us tie him to a tree and have a talk with him." "But this is outrage! It is sacrilegious!" the abbot yelled. "Just such outrage as when you would have sent a fair and innocent maid to the clutches of Isambard de Bellamy," Robin answered. "Pull him down, Will, and clout him over the ear if he resists." But the abbot came to the ground without another word, while another man of the band helped the two friars to dismount. "Good Robin," said Little John, "we have made a rare haul here, for this fellow hath a great fat bag under his gown, and there is a mighty pleasant clink to it." "Dare to touch the bag, and you hang, all of you," the abbot roared. It is tax for the king's ransom." "Why, you fat liar," said Robin with a laugh, "one of my own men heard you say this morning that it is for your brother the sheriff to buy men to hunt me down." "Robin," yelled Much, who was searching for the other friar, "this one hath a great bag of coin too." "Verily," said the abbot, with tears of vexation in his eyes, "it would need an army to make these forest tracks safe, even for such holy men as we." "Empty the bags, and see how much his holiness was about to pay for our capture," Robin bade. "I trust he rates us a fair price." So while the abbot stood by, murmuring the maledictions of the church on all outlaws, and his two friars prayed at a great rate, expecting to be killed in some murderous way, the money was counted into Little John's hat, which was big enough to hold it. 450 gold marks," said Little John, when all had been counted into the hat. "Never has my poor hat been so rich before." "An insult, abbot," said Robin, "for it rates my tall fellows at only 3 marks apiece, seeing that there are 7 scores of them." "Ah," said the abbot, grinding his teeth, "you shall hang for this." "Not so free with that tongue of yours, abbot," Little John warned him, "or we may do a little hanging ourselves." "You dare not lay hands on me, you sacrilegious rogue," the abbot retorted fiercely, for he had plenty of courage. "We dare just as much as you dare, with the wretched serfs under you, abbot," Robin told him contemptuously. "And you dared to lie to us containing this gold. So I tell you that it shall be put to the purpose you said. I will send it to Sherwood's share of the tax towards King Richard's ransom from the King of Sherwood and his men. What say you, men?" "A good use for the gold," said Little John. "Out of his revenue squeezed from his lands, Abbot Hugo can find other gold for our hunting." "What?" the abbot cried. "Do you steal my gold?" Robin shook his head. We do, but put it to the use you said it was for, he answered. If we can but get good King Richard back to England, there may be an end to the oppressions of rogues like you. Do you dare insult me, villain? The abbot roared furiously. Now see here, scum of the church, Robin answered quietly. I have with me enough men to beat you to a jelly, if they only give a couple of blows apiece. So far, the skins of all three of you are whole, but if you bandy words with us much longer, they will be broken, for I will have you beaten with quarter staves unless you get back on your mules and go about your business. The abbot looked as if he were about to reply, but thought better of it. He climbed back on his mule, muttering, 450 good gold marks. Robin laughed. So shall we get our King Richard back the sooner, he said, and you will rejoice, Abbot, that you helped make up his ransom. When you think it over, now away with you, all three, and leave the forest ways to decent people. The three rode off, the two friars glad to escape so lightly, and Abbot Hugo in a rage at Robin for waylaying him, and at himself for hoping to escape the attention of the outlaws by traveling such an undignified fashion. Now he knew he must go to Nottingham and meet his brother without a single piece of gold, and though he might promise payment for help, he knew well that Robert de Renal, his brother, was not a man to set much store by promises. Still, there was no such help for it, and he must do his best. He could get Robert to send an escort to St. Mary's to fetch more gold, and thus make good his promises. While he thought thus, Robin had the gold repacked in the two bags and taken off to his hold. 4 days later it was delivered to the king's justiciary at York with a little slip of parchment which read, This tax of 450 marks collected in the forest of Sherwood by me, Robin Hood, is hereby paid toward the ransom of our good King Richard, whom God preserve, and is delivered by order of me, Robin Hood, to be used for the purpose and no other. But the abbot, when he came to his brother at Nottingham, was too angry to keep quiet over the way in which he had been trapped and made to yield up his gold. So the tale went about of how Robin had spoiled him, and many a man laughed to think that the fat abbot had been made to give up some of his gains to help bring King Richard back to his throne again, when the very last man Abbot Hugo wanted to see in England was the same Richard, who had no love for such oppressors. And when it got about that Abbot had meant to use his money to pay for the capture of Robin Hood and his band, the laughter was great indeed, for very few people had sympathy with Abbot Hugo, since everyone knew his character as a grasping, cruel man, while many had sympathy for Robin Hood, whose generosity and courage were known to all. Thank you for joining us for Storytime with Cozy Malka. We'd love for you to share with our friends what you learned from tonight's tale. Join us next time for the continued adventures of Robin Hood.